Have you ever felt a strange energy in the air, like something's about to shift, but you can't explain why? A quiet pull in your chest that doesn't come from logic, but from your soul. Maybe you've been asking yourself, is he really coming back? Not because you're desperate, but because deep down you feel something. A stirring, a whisper. Yet doubt creeps in. Is it intuition, or just another illusion in the long twin flame journey? In today's video, we're going to help you understand that sacred feeling. We'll walk you through 6 unmistakable signs that your divine masculine is not only thinking of you, but aligning with you on a soul level. These signs won't come through noise or chaos, but through quiet confirmations that speak directly to your inner knowing. You'll learn how to discern truth from illusion, how to recognize energetic movement, and how to trust what your soul already feels. By the end of this video, something within you will shift. You won't just hope he's returning, you'll start to feel it with certainty. You'll begin to see the beauty in divine timing, to understand that alignment speaks louder than words or actions. And perhaps most importantly, you'll remember that your connection was never about waiting, it was always about becoming. Becoming aware, becoming whole, becoming ready to receive what's already making its way to you. So stay with us, watch this video to the end. And if you feel that quiet resonance, don't ignore it. It's not just a message, it's a mirror reflecting your truth. Sign 1. Your energy feels complete without them. There comes a quiet turning point on the twin flame journey, a moment that feels less like a decision and more like a return to yourself. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. There are no fireworks, no urgent messages from the universe, no desperate questions pulling at your heart. Instead, it's subtle, sacred, and deeply transformational. Something within you shifts, not because you stopped loving them, but because you stopped waiting. And in that pause, you rise. You realize that your healing was never about getting them back. It was about coming back to yourself. You're no longer drowning in tarot readings, chasing timelines, or decoding their silence. You're no longer searching for something outside of you to feel complete. Instead, you start reclaiming all the parts of you that were scattered while waiting for their return. You gather your light. You tend to your soul. You come home to your heart. And it feels like exhaling after holding your breath for lifetimes. This isn't about turning cold or indifferent. It's not detachment from love. It's the embodiment of it. You begin to recognize that your love was never missing. It was misdirected. Silence no longer wounds you. It becomes your sanctuary. Their absence doesn't feel like abandonment anymore. It becomes sacred space. A stillness where your spirit can breathe, expand, and remember who you are. In that space, your energy shifts. You're no longer vibrating at the frequency of lack or longing. You radiate fullness, and that wholeness. It speaks louder than words. It draws them, not through desperation, but through resonance. The divine masculine doesn't respond to need. He responds to truth, to presence, to the magnetic, undeniable energy of a soul that has returned to itself. When you stop needing them to come back, you actually begin calling them home. You become the sign. You start smiling without reason. You sleep more peacefully. You no longer obsess over whether they'll reach out, because you've already reached inward. You've become a safe space, not just for them, but for yourself. And that energy is irresistible, not because you're trying to pull them in, but because you finally stopped pushing yourself away. If this message stirred something within you, if you felt seen, understood, or even a little more whole, take a moment to reflect. Where are you on this journey? Are you still seeking completion outside of yourself? Or are you beginning to remember the power that lives within you? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share your experience, or simply type, "I am complete in my own energy," as a powerful affirmation to anchor this truth into your heart. Your voice matters, and you never know who might be inspired by your courage to speak. Now, let's move into the next sign, because the journey only deepens from here. Sign 2. Old wounds stop hurting like before. There comes a subtle yet powerful moment on your twin flame journey when something inside you shifts. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or declarations. It simply arrives, in the quiet. Where there was once tension and emotional chaos, now there's calm. Where silence once screamed and echoed abandonment, it now feels like a sacred pause. This is the moment when the pain that used to wrap itself around your chest begins to loosen its grip. The wounds don't vanish overnight, but they soften. They no longer burn with urgency. They become echoes rather than anchors. This isn't emotional detachment. It's not that you no longer care. It's that you've started to care differently, more consciously, more deeply, for yourself. What once felt like rejection now feels like redirection. What once triggered a storm of doubt and spirals now feels like a message, a mirror, an opportunity to grow. You're no longer decoding his silence or tying your worth to his presence. His distance doesn't feel like abandonment anymore. It feels like a choice. And more importantly, it no longer controls your emotional state. The betrayal, the confusion, the longing, all those deeply embedded wounds your divine masculine unknowingly unearthed, don't carry the same emotional charge. You're not reacting out of fear or survival anymore. You've stopped chasing ghosts, stopped revisiting old conversations in your mind, hoping to rewrite them. You've learned to sit with your emotions instead of outsourcing your healing to someone else. You now hold yourself in the places you once begged them to stay. This is the work of soul alchemy. This is how transformation feels, not explosive, but steady, quiet, empowering. The same triggers that once tore you apart now teach you who you truly are. The pain no longer weakens you, it awakens you. And as you stabilize your energy, as your emotional body finds equilibrium, something profound begins to happen. Your frequency rises. You start radiating the version of yourself that your soul always intended for you to become. And in that rising, your divine masculine feels the shift, not because you're calling him back with need or longing, but because your energy has become magnetic, whole, free. You no longer wait for him to come back to feel complete. Instead, your healing becomes the very light he is drawn to, not from a place of lack, but from the sacred gravity of love embodied. Sign 3. Your divine masculine begins to mirror your growth. There is a sacred moment in the twin flame journey when your transformation no longer stays contained within you. It begins to ripple outward. You don't have to reach out. You don't have to explain. You don't even have to be seen, because energy never lies. When you rise, the frequency of your healing becomes undeniable. It echoes, silently yet powerfully, into the soul of your divine masculine. You've done the work, and not the easy kind. You've walked through your darkness, faced your triggers, peeled back the layers of illusion. You've cried, released, surrendered. You've stopped chasing, stopped begging the silence to answer you. Instead, you've chosen to pour into your own growth, to stand rooted in your truth, even when it was lonely. You've stepped into your power, not with pride, but with peace. Then, without expectation, something shifts. A sign appears. Maybe it's a message you didn't anticipate, a social media post that carries new energy, a conversation with someone who mentions him in passing, and you notice something different. He's shifting, he's softening, he's waking up to the very truths he once avoided. The wounds he ran from, he now seems ready to face. The karmic loops he once repeated without awareness are beginning to lose their grip on him. But here's the sacred truth. It's not because of anything you did for him. It's because of what you finally did for yourself. This is the divine mirror at work, the energetic blueprint of the twin flame connection. You are not two separate souls walking parallel paths. You're one shared frequency, split into two human experiences. When you ascend, your vibration invites his soul to remember. Your clarity becomes his compass. Your stability becomes his invitation to rise. He begins to reflect what you become, not perfectly, not immediately, but undeniably. His tone changes, his energy softens, his presence, even if distant, feels more open. You sense his awakening, not just to you, but to himself. This isn't a return to old cycles. It's the beginning of something new. He's not drawn back because you're waiting. He's drawn back because you're glowing. Because in rising without him, you became a beacon, not of need, but of truth. And that truth is magnetic. You didn't call him home with words. You called him through frequency, through alignment, through becoming everything your soul came here to be. And now he's responding, not to who you were, but to who you've become. Imagine a woman who once spent nights crying over unanswered texts, questioning her worth through the lens of his silence. She clung to the idea of reunion, hoping that one day he would see her, choose her, fight for her. But then something shifted. Instead of waiting, she turned inward. She started therapy, picked up meditation, returned to her creative passions. She stopped scrolling through his feed and started writing in her journal. She didn't do it to get him back. She did it to find herself. Months passed, and then, unexpectedly, a message appeared, not filled with apologies or grand declarations, but with a quiet sincerity. He had begun facing his own wounds. He mentioned books she used to love. He had started questioning his old patterns, making choices that aligned more with truth than ego. He didn't know it, but he had started reflecting her growth. Her rising became his roadmap. Not because she chased him, but because she showed what it means to return to oneself. This is how the mirror works. When you heal with intention, the universe responds with reflection. Sign 4. A deep, calm inner knowing emerges. There comes a moment on this journey when something quietly but powerfully shifts within you. It's not dramatic. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or loud declarations. Instead, it's a subtle unraveling of tension, a soft exhale that reaches your soul. The noise, the questions, the overthinking, the obsessive searching begins to fade. Not because you've given up, but because you've finally arrived at a place within yourself that no longer needs to ask. It's not apathy, it's alignment. This is the emergence of deep, calm inner knowing, the kind that doesn't shout, but settles. It's the sacred whisper that arises when your spirit has moved through the fire, and instead of burning, it began to glow. You no longer feel the urge to chase after signs, tarot readings, or reassurance from the outside world, because the truth has already landed within you, and it's unmistakable. You feel him, not like a passing memory or an emotional longing, but like an energetic presence that simply is. Not a question mark, but a full-body yes. There is no anxiety in this state, no desperation, no ache. There is only peace, a peace that feels earned, not gifted. You begin to wake up feeling lighter, not because the path has been easy, but because you've become stronger. The need to dissect every silence, to decode every absence, begins to dissolve. The pain no longer owns your heart. It becomes a page you've turned, not a chapter you're stuck in. And this calm, it's not passive, it's powerful. In this stillness, you finally understand you're not waiting for union anymore. You're living in the frequency of it. You've stopped longing and started becoming. And that changes everything. Because when you are no longer trying to make it happen, you realize it already is. This calm knowing is sacred because it's the truth your soul always held, but your heart wasn't ready to hear. Now, it's undeniable. You're no longer just waiting for your divine masculine. You're holding space for him, for you, for the version of both of you who rise, evolve, and meet, not in lack, but in light. This is the turning point. Not a pause in the journey, but the quiet arrival of its most powerful chapter. If you've made it this far, it means something in your soul resonated with this message. Take a deep breath and honor how far you've come, not just in this journey with your divine masculine, but in the sacred reunion you're creating within yourself. Now we'd love to hear from you. What part of this sign spoke to you the most? Have you felt this quiet knowing in your own heart? Share your story in the comments below, or if you don't have the words yet, simply affirm with, "I am the calm before reunion." Your presence, your truth, and your voice matter here. Let's rise together. Sign 5. Synchronicities around union intensify. It doesn't always begin with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes the universe speaks in whispers, soft nudges that only a tuned-in soul can recognize. At first, it's subtle. The clock lands on 11:11 again, and a familiar sensation stirs in your chest. Not anxiety, not fantasy, but a quiet knowing. You feel something shift in the air. Then, a song plays. Not just any song, but your song, the one tied to him, to memories, to a love that defies logic. It finds you at the exact moment your heart was calling for a sign. These aren't random events. These are echoes of a truth too big for words. Suddenly, the repetition begins. Angel numbers flood your days. 222, 333, 717. You see his name more often, or your initials paired together on a license plate. A butterfly lands near your feet in a place it shouldn't be. A hawk flies overhead, just as you think of him. A white feather appears on your path without explanation. The timing is too precise. The symbols, too meaningful. The synchronicities become a language of their own, a sacred dialogue between your soul and the divine. But here's the deeper truth. These signs don't come when you're in desperation, clinging to timelines, or over-analyzing his silence. They arrive when you release, when you surrender, when you anchor into your own wholeness. That's when the veil thins and the universe mirrors back your energetic alignment. Because spiritual signs aren't meant to convince you. They're meant to confirm what your soul already knows. You've stepped into a new frequency, one where union is not something you wait for, but something you're beginning to embody. The signs show you that you're no longer vibrating at lack or longing, but at harmony. Union is no longer a far-off dream. It's a magnetic pull, a divine current already moving in your favor. Even if the divine masculine hasn't spoken a word, even if he can't logically make sense of what's unfolding, his spirit feels it too. Your alignment is pulling him in, not through force, but through the sacred resonance of your shared soul. You are being guided, you are being shown, and every feather, every number, every melody is a divine reminder. Union isn't just coming, it's already begun. Sign 6. Sudden shifts in communication and energy. It doesn't happen when you're watching the phone or counting the days. It arrives when you've let go of the calendar, when the silence between you stops feeling like emptiness and starts becoming sacred ground. In that stillness, when you've stopped clinging and started trusting, the shift begins. At first, it's almost imperceptible, like a quiet ripple moving through an unseen field. But your soul feels it before your mind can name it. One day, the connection feels distant, unreachable, faded into the background of your life. Then, suddenly, without any logical explanation, it changes. You have a dream so vivid, it feels more real than waking life. A vision passes through you like a whisper from another dimension. A random message pops up, a text, a like, a comment, and it lands not just as digital noise, but as energetic confirmation. The space between you, once heavy and hollow, now hums with life. It doesn't feel like absence anymore. It feels like presence returning. Telepathy sharpens. Their emotions brush against your consciousness like waves at the shore. You hear their voice in your mind, not as imagination, but as resonance. And when they speak, even if it's just a few simple words, the tone carries something new. There's no resistance, no defensiveness, just softness, curiosity, presence. You don't hear the exact words you may have longed for, but you recognize the energy. They're no longer pulling away. They're slowly, quietly leaning in. And that's the miracle. You didn't chase this shift into being. You created it by healing, by choosing inner peace over control, by loving without gripping. You detached not as a way to forget, but as a way to honor your truth. You stepped into a frequency of surrender, and in doing so, you became magnetic again, not just to them, but to the universe itself. This sudden reconnection isn't random. It's a signal. Their soul is beginning to rise and meet yours at a higher frequency. The emotional call your heart once sent out is finally being received. And even if their body is still catching up, their spirit is already in motion. The connection never disappeared. It only went silent long enough for both of you to evolve into the version of yourselves who could hold it. What you're feeling isn't just a shift in energy. It's a shift in destiny. Now you understand, signs don't always come like thunder. They often arrive wrapped in silence, in the subtle grace of your own becoming. What once felt like loneliness has transformed into solitude. What used to sting as absence now settles as peace. This journey was never solely about his return, it was about your return to yourself. Every synchronicity, every number sequence, every feather, dream and whisper, they weren't just signs of his presence. They were echoes of your transformation. You've risen, quietly, courageously, consistently, and in doing so, you've become the sign. Not a seeker of proof, but a lighthouse of truth. You've stopped begging for love and started embodying it. You've stopped chasing union and started vibrating as union. And that shift, so sacred, so powerful, has sent ripples through the universe, awakening the part of him that remembers you not just as a person, but as home. He may not yet have the words. He may not yet understand the stirring in his chest, but your energy has already touched him. He feels the hum, the pull, the alignment, and it's calling him to rise too. Not to complete you, but to meet you. Not to rescue you, but to remember the love that was never lost. So if you've been seeing the signs, if your heart has felt what your mind can't explain, know this: you're not imagining it, you're intuitively remembering it. You are living the prophecy your soul signed up for. You are proof that healing creates the conditions for miracles. If this message stirred something within you, comment below, "I am the sign." Let this be your declaration to the universe. Let this be your energetic yes to alignment, not attachment. To love, not lack. To remembrance, not resistance. And if you felt seen, heard, or held by these words, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this truth, and subscribe to the Spiritual Universe channel so you never walk this sacred path alone. There's more guidance, more love, and more remembrance waiting for you just below this screen. Until we meet again, keep rising, keep trusting, and above all, keep becoming the very love you once sought. The union you seek begins with you.